Your speed came out as 124. Could be a bit lower than what you typically see in TrackMan, but this is the top speed that I've ever seen. So it's
That's the highest you've ever seen?
I saw some in the 120s, but you are probably either the fastest or one of the fastest golfers that I've seen,
Okay, cool.
which is good.
Even the tour guys? Cool.
It's hard to actually exceed 120 in our calculation, but
126. I could have swung harder, maybe.
so this is elite men's average, including professional players, college players, and then some teaching professionals.
Like 117, 118.
It's 111, I think,
Okay.
and then you're way above that. And even when we normalize it to your body height, still you're generating good speed here.
Okay, that's good.
So this is after eliminating the effect of the body size, but still it's really good.
Cool.
And then overall swing time is about 900 milliseconds, which is good. So you have a faster backswing. But the only thing is that if you look at the shape of the this graph here, this is clever speed during the backswing here. So from here to here is the backswing, and then you are reaching the peak value before the midpoint here, right?
So I'm faster at the beginning and then I slow down.
So we are reaching the peak value early, but I want to see this happening a bit later.
So speed early or speed
So
late.
so you can go you gradually increase the speed and then build the climax toward the end of the backswing.
So it's slowing down too much. So I would be faster if I.
So if you reach the peak value here, but when this happens, then you have an early quick action of the body. We'll eventually see it in the kinematic sequence, but so rather than having early onset of peak here, if you delay this, then from the backswing to downswing, you have a continuous transition that gives you more benefits. So yeah, that's one thing that I see here. And the top view, so both this large rectangle is the swing plane, calculated from the cleavage motion. And then this smaller rectangle here, this is the hand motion plane.
Everything's to the right.
Both are slightly right, but because this is driver and you use a relatively higher T.
Try and hit up on it.
Yeah. So this is okay because at impact,
That looks pretty good.
so this is the direction of the cleavage motion. It is actually toward the target here. Because swing plane is slightly rightward and then you are hitting up. So that's why it's
So
aligned.
driver, it's good.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll see the eye.
In the irons, I think you're adjusting, so this will decrease.
Okay.
Yeah, but so in terms of the alignment, this is good, and then particularly the cleavage motion and hand motion plane, these are parallel to each other, so this gives a simple motion pattern.
Okay.
So this is good, and about 5 degrees outward, but in the irons, you will probably have a lot less angle here.
Okay.
Yeah, so which is okay. And then this is when everything is aligned along the swing plane here. And the slope of your swing plane is 51.4 degrees. For your height,
What does that mean?
so this is the slope here.
Oh, slope. I gotcha.
For your height, about 50 degrees is normal.
Okay.
So it's not too steep here.
Gotcha.
But since you're tall here, the slope of swing plane is a function of the height of the golfer. So although you can probably flatten this a little bit by keeping the ball a bit more away from your body.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is reasonable. And then generally you have a good on-plane motion here. So most of the motion is along the swing plane here. You don't have much
Yeah, it looks pretty
off-plane
good.
motion.
Yeah.
So the swing motion is actually quite simple.
Okay.
And then center of mass motion here. So this is the whole body center of mass.
Okay.
It goes away, and then it goes up. You are reaching the high point at the 5, which is end of pelvis rotation. That means when during the backswing, the pelvis rotation is completed, you reach the high point, which is good timing here. And on the way down, it drops quite a bit, which is good.
I lower. Yeah.
This is good, but the timing is a bit early.
I lower too early. That's,
That means you are initiating the upward motion a bit early.
so like an early extent.
So you have intentional jumping type motion here. So usually the low point occurs at 8, where the club aligns vertically
Okay.
in the downswing. So about here you reach the low point, but already it's moving upward here. So this is because you have intentional push. And then later you will see that if you have too much push, maximum force is large. However, after that at impact, you will see the so-called unweighting. The ground reaction force becomes way less than the body weight.
Okay.
So when you have too much push, then that happens,
Okay.
which is quite common among junior players. They try to jump.
Well, I was really small when I was a kid, so I've always jumped.
But this dropping is really good.
Okay.
Okay? But you just slow down the downward motion, and then with that you push reasonably. But if you intentionally try to push hard, then later you will see almost like a jumping off type,
Like the feet off the ground kind of thing.
The feet does not completely go off, but you will see severe unweighting.
I saw that. Yeah.
But the way you are moving the whole body center of mass and also pelvis, this is good.
Okay.
Although again, the pelvis center of mass goes quite high up, that means you have tendency of jumping. Okay. But other than that, this dropping is really good here. This is the source of good push to the ground.
Okay.
Pelvis motion. So the lower one is the rotational motion, and particularly the red line is the pelvis rotation here. So you are rotating more than elite man's average, and at impact less. It's because you maintain more outward swing plane, so you tend to turn this way more, but not as much in this direction.
Yeah, but I guess is it opening up to the path, or is it opening up to like 0? So it's showing.
So 0, this is when the pelvis is aligned toward the target.
Got it.
Right? But then generally, the most right rotated position and then the left rotated position at impact, they should be reasonably balanced.
Okay.
But you have a bias in this direction,
Yeah.
that gives you more outward swing plane. Could be somewhat intentional, but one thing I see is that also here you have a really good lateral tilt. The blue line shows a lateral tilt.
Okay.
So in the backswing, right side is higher, left side is lower. So with that, you create the left tilt. And this is more than 20 degrees, which is really good. This is actually good, the source of good interaction with the ground.
Yeah.
And then, however, this green line here, line shows this motion here. So it's called the forward backward tilt or anterior posterior tilt using the anatomical terms.
Okay.
And then, so initially you have this backward tilt.
Yeah.
And then forward tilt and backward tilt. But you see the green line passes through this axis here.
Too much.
That means you are going to the forward tilt a bit too much.
Like this way.
Yeah, that usually comes
Early
with
extension.
the pelvis motion backward. When the pelvis moves backward, then it tilts forward more. So if you look at this red line here, in the upper graph here, this shows the forward backward motion of the pelvis. And normally what we see is that it stays here and then goes forward all the way to this point here, and then backward and forward more. But in your case, you tend to keep the pelvis.
Too far back.
So when the pelvis moves,
So I can actually let it go more towards.
yeah, when the pelvis goes backward, then you tend to have a forward tilt.
Exact opposite of early extension.
Yeah, so these two are actually going side by side here.
I've always had a problem with early extension. I guess I don't. I guess I go too much the other way. Okay.
So
Interesting.
yeah, this is the most backward position here.
Okay.
And here, most forward, close to most forward tilted position here.
Got it.
So at this point, you have good, a lot of motion backward. And then for the toward away motion, this is away. The green line shows away and the toward motion. So from away shift to, and then returning to the initial position, this is called the recentering.
Yeah.
And then so by the time you finish the rotation, you have a shift away and the recentering, which is really good.
Yeah.
And then you keep moving toward. So the away toward motion pattern is really good.
Okay.
You are not spinning, but rather you have good
Yeah.
rotation about the spine axis here. So this is good.
Good.
And also this blue line is up and down motion. You are continuously going down, but then you have a more dip here. This is your action, dropping the body and then try to push the ground hard.
Maybe do too much, or who knows?
When you have the intention to jump, then you will drop a lot.
Yeah.
But still you have to drop it reasonably, and then with that, let the body drop, and then by pushing the ground, you will be able to slow down the downward motion. That's where you get the maximum force. But if you have the intention to push off, then you push it harder, then the force goes too much, and then at impact, you will have a lot of unweighting. So that jumping, still, that's your signature move, but if it's a bit too much, then toward the impact, your body is almost having a jumping like action. Yeah. So the only thing is pelvis is going backward a bit too much, but the way you generate the speed and everything, and also the way you interact with the ground, I think this should be okay.
Okay.
But don't try to change.
Okay, no, I'm not,
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless you're
It's
building.
more about if the club face is really the key here. Like if the club face is doing crazy things, then.
So what happens is, imagine you're throwing something accurately here, but you don't go slowly here and then just try to throw like this.
Yeah.
Rather, you have good backstroke and then throw,
Okay.
typically.
Gotcha.
So if you connect the backswing and downswing that way, so
Yeah.
when you build the climax toward the end of the backswing, and then coming down, then you can really use
More force from the top instead of
yeah.
early on, so I can generate more
So you're-
speed and more accuracy.
you're using in the downswing, you're using ground well, and with that you trying to generate the speed. But
Versus up at the
if you build the climax toward the end of the backswing and connect the backswing to downswing well,
Then I can do it
you don't have to put that much effort in the downswing.
Okay.
Because you can take advantage of the so-called the stretch shortening cycle.
Okay.
So the muscle elongates and then shortens after that.
So way more wind up and build up and then rip it down.
So go a bit slowly initially instead of have a quick action here, but then throw and then build the climax toward the end of backswing and then going into downswing.
Gotcha.
It's actually easier for the muscles.
Okay. Cool. All right.
So when you put too much effort in the downswing, what happens is if you repeat playing like 3 rounds in a row, 4 rounds in a row, then eventually you get tired because the way you are using the muscles. On the way down, if you put a lot of effort, then it's more like a shortening
Got it.
type. But when you have eccentric contraction and concentric contraction, elongation and then shortening, continuous, it's called the stretchy shortening cycle.
So I don't really I do it maybe a little bit, but I don't really do it.
That's the best way to use the muscles. So for that, you need to build the climax toward the end of the backswing and then continuous transition to the downswing.
All right.
And then X factor here. So this is separation between the shoulders and hips here. So up to this point, it increases rapidly here, but
Okay.
the slope changes here. So what that means is early on you have active shoulder action here,
Yep.
and then later now the shoulder and the pelvis are turning pretty much together. So the slope decreases a little bit.
Okay.
And then this is when the rotation is completed. And after that, your pelvis now starts rotating in the downswing direction. So you have further increase in the X factor. So a little bit change in the slope here. This is again because you have early action and then later you are slowing down. But if you build the climax toward the end,
That would just fix
then
it.
this will be continuous separation.
Okay. So it's pretty continuous, but there's a little jolt.
Yep.
I see that. Okay.
A lot of people, it goes completely flat here and then
Okay.
going up here. Then that means, they lose the effect of backswing completely.
Yeah.
And the kinematic sequence here. Now here we will see, so these are angular velocity patterns here. And then in the backswing, you will see that the pelvis peak angular velocity occurs here. It's really early.
Really early. So I'm whipping the club. All my stuff is too
The
early.
pelvis, you have quick motion here.
Yeah.
This has to happen around the midpoint here. And then so the pelvis here, you have thorax next, and then the shoulder here. These are relatively happening early. And then the arms and the club here.
Okay.
So if you initially just have a sort of a gradual acceleration, and you reach the peak about the midpoint here, then you have nice acceleration and deceleration, and then transition to the downswing. But here what happens is if you have early action here, then it's decelerating here, but then you have a flat period here. This is kind of hesitation here. But when you build the climax toward the end of the backswing, then this will be simple acceleration and deceleration pattern.
Got it.
So you have early action here in terms of the backswing motion. And then this part is the transition between the end of pelvis rotation and top of backswing. This is the transition phase here. So the pelvis transitions first, and then the thorax, but the rest are all clustered here. So that means in the backswing, you are slowing down the motion here quite a bit. So on the way down, you try to have active motion and try to throw hard. So these are clustered here. But when you have a more fast motion toward the end of the backswing, then this will give more sequential transitions.
Gotcha.
So this means that you're slowing down. When you have clustered transitions here, then you're slowing down a little bit toward the end of the backswing here. And then in terms of the peaks in the downswing, the timing is all right. It's about here, 8 here. This is all right. And the one thing, if you look at here, 7 and let me go back to this pattern here. So here, the 1 is the beginning of the backswing. 2 is when the club is horizontal. 3 and 4 are now happening at the same time here. 3 is when the
Left arm's
parallel, and then 4 is when the club is vertical. But these two are happening at the same time. That means you have tendency of early quick wrist action here.
Too flippy.
That's what causes early action of the body. If you have the image of letting it go, so make a large arc on this side.
More like
More
longer.
Yeah. It's a faster motion.
I'm too kind of
Yeah. So when you introduce the wrist cock early, then 3 and 4 will be happening at the same.
I've definitely had too much wrist cock.
But if you just let it go in the away direction, they make a large arc and then coming here.
So exaggerate the club coming up later.
You don't have to do this, but just in one action, simply try to throw the club head.
And I was throwing it too early with
You have this wrist action here. Instead, throw.
This way.
Yeah, make a large arc around. Yeah. Then you can build the climax more toward. So you have an early quick wrist action here.
So so I guess if I just fix it off the start, then that would really get everything else.
So it'll particularly improve your transition sequence. Now, and then 7 and 8 are happening quite close to each other in terms of time here.
Which is 7 and 8.
7 is on the way down when the lead arm is parallel to the ground, and then 8 is when the club becomes vertical in the frontal view.
Too quick.
These are happening too close here. Actually, there should be more separation. So that means when the lead arm is parallel to the ground, if still you keep the club a bit closer to the body, then after that, now because this becomes vertical here, you have more time gap there. But if the club stays more away from your body, then between this position and then club vertical, you don't have that much time.
So I'm losing lag.
Either you are losing the leg early, or you may not have enough wrist cock to start with. So either one.
If I just fix the thing off the start, I think it would just fix it.
So the reason why I'm asking you to build the climax toward the end is because with that you can naturally have a bit more wrist cock.
Yeah.
So if we go back to the climax sequence here, now here the 7 and 8 are happening quite close to each other.
But that's because I've already kind of messed it up from the start, kind of. It just is.
And then so let's see. So this is the swing plane view. So you have a large backswing here, but at the same time your arms are almost aligned vertically here.
Okay.
And then here you are losing that wrist cock early here.
Yeah.
This pink line here shows the wrist angular velocity. If it's negative, then it's a cocking. Positive means uncocking.
Okay.
You are starting uncocking here. early uncocking. Uncocking, and then you have a brief phase of recocking.
Okay, so it's like a twitchy thing, yeah.
But if you delay this, so if the pink line goes like this and then going here, that's the best pattern here.
Yeah, so just more of the delay at the top, it would fix all of that.
So, and then in the along the swing plane here, when the club stays a bit too close to the swing plane here, then naturally, when you try to introduce the shallowing motion, the club tends to move away from your body, so it creates an uncocking effect.
And then the ball.
So, so when the swing plane, imagine swing plane is a bit flatter here, going this way here,
Yeah.
then hands and club head will be deviated from the swing plane more.
Okay.
Then it's easier. Well,
If the club's flatter?
So when the swing plane is here, if you keep it a bit higher here, then and try to drop, it's easier. It has less detrimental effect.
So
is
get my hands higher at the
a bit
top?
higher,
Okay.
and then while you're dropping, you can delay this and then let it
So
go.
I'm too flat.
So currently, these deviations are a bit too close to the swing plane here.
Okay.
So when you try to drop this, you have uncocking like
Gotcha.
effect.
So if the arms and stuff are higher off of the original thing, then it would be. I got it. Okay.
Considering the size of the backswing,
I know, I've always
that's
had a lot of
large,
yeah.
but then it's staying fairly close to the swing plane here. That from there, when you try to bring this down here, you have the effect of uncocking here.
Got it.
So you do have a large backswing, but because you are introducing early uncocking here, so you are losing that effect a bit. And then, so it's moving away from your body.
Mm-hmm.
And then here, briefly, it's cocking here, and then uncocking here.
So it's just doing a lot of too much.
So it's called the early uncocking with the recocking pattern. But when you have recocking pattern, then if you can delay this uncocking, the final uncocking, then that's okay. But we have a little bit of recocking, but again, uncocking starts right away there.
Yeah.
So you are not really taking advantage of this early uncocking followed by recocking pattern. Usually those who have recocking, then they delay the uncocking until this point here. So keep the club a bit closer,
Yeah.
maintain the leg here.
Okay.
So obviously, because of that, although you are generating good angular velocity of the club, but you are not using the wrist that much here.
Interesting.
So this is elite man's average maximum wrist uncocking velocity. You are not reaching there, but yet still your club goes above. That means you're using the whole body and try
Yeah.
to generate the
Versus the
angular
wrist.
velocity, and then you're not using the wrist that
But potentially
way.
because I'm using the wrist too early on, I've kind of messed up the whole thing.
So what happens is in the backswing, the backswing is really important because it sets the ground for the downswing. So when you tend to use wrist early, then you tend to use wrist early. When you use the arms in the backswing, then you tend to start
So you
downswing
really,
with the
I mean,
arms.
as an exaggeration, keep it like that. and
Straight, and then pretty much, making a large arc on this side, and then at the end, it's coming around. It's building tension here.
Yeah.
Then you can use it on the way down. Yeah.
So if I just fix it off the start, it should kind of fix a
Yeah.
lot of
So
other stuff.
maintain the same, time, backswing time,
This way all the way
but
around.
try to have a bit larger backswing on this side.
Yeah.
That will be beneficial.
Yeah, more this way. Got it.
But I don't know whether you need the more speed at this point. But
Well, efficiency, because I guess if I'm recocking and uncocking, that's gonna, because my dispersion.
so when you use the wrist better, so this will go up here, then it will contribute to speed. So then that means you can reach the same speed without putting that much effort. Currently, your body action is really active. With that, you are generating speed, but then it can cause some control issues.
Yeah, I think that's probably what's good.
But when the swing becomes a bit easier, then it's also easier to control the direction. So
Cool.
so 7 and 8 are quite close. That means either you don't have enough wrist cock to start with, or you are losing the wrist cock early. And then in your case, you have early uncocking here.
I bet because if I flip the wrist early and too much, and then that's what causes me to kind of go like this.
So
So if I
when
just
you-
keep it longer.
Yeah. So give good, nice motion around here, And then here, when you bring this down and then drop here,
It'll just happen
it's
naturally.
okay, yeah. So when you have a larger arc here, then actually you may be able to flatten your circle. Or another way is you keep the ball a bit away from your body.
Move away from it, okay.
So keep your swing plane a bit flat.
More, just farther away, and that'll keep it longer.
Yeah. And then, so with this, go around and then coming this way instead of bringing it in there. Go high,
And then,
again, keep everything too close to the swing plane here.
interesting.
So that's something you need to experiment.
Okay.
And then, so in the kinematic sequence, we see the early onset of a peaks here. That means you have early quick action, but after that, as you can see in the Paris motion here, you have this phase here. So it's not slowing down, but it's not speeding up. It just maintains the velocity here.
Should it be speeding up then?
No, you have a speed up here and then slow down and continuous transition here.
Got it,
It's a simple speed up and slow down and continuous.
got it.
And then this is how you use the ground. Okay. I noticed that you have a little bit of body action before you start the backswing, which is a trigger motion.
Yeah, trying to do that.
Yeah, which is good. So that gives a bit active backswing here. And then so at the beginning here, now the middle graph is the force.
Okay.
The blue line is the force acting on the trail side. Green line is the force acting on the leader side here. Red one is the combined force here.
Okay.
So at the before you start the backswing, as you can see, so about here, you will see that you have a lot more force acting on the leader foot here.
Yeah.
This is good. So because you have a little bit of body action and then start.
Yeah.
So then, although at this point you can still have more difference here, but it's decreased a little bit. But if you go here, you have good loading on this side.
Yeah.
Using this, you are starting the backswing,
Yeah.
which is good.
Yeah.
And then here you have a maximum push from the trail side here. The blue line reaches a peak value. And then so the total force also goes above the body weight.
So that's good.
So this is called the active push.
Okay.
And after that, you have unweighting here. That means the combined ground reaction force goes below the body weight.
Okay.
So when we interact with the ground in the vertical direction, it's through active push and unweighting. So you're repeating active push and unweighting.
So that's good. Then.
So you have active push, you have unweighting and the active push here.
Okay.
And then after that, you also have unweighting at the impact here. Because this force is a bit too much.
It's too much.
But now here, you could increase this force a bit more and then have a continuous unweighting here. Instead of here, you see, it's unweighting, but it's not much here.
It should be lower.
Yeah, it should have a continuous
It
motion.
goes, so it slopes down a little bit too much.
But currently, it's almost a flat here. That means you don't have that much unweighting here. This portion here is coming from the upward motion. So in the upward motion, what happens is initially your body will accelerate and then decelerate here. During this deceleration phase, you have this unweighting.
That's good. I have that. Yep.
Yeah, but this should be a bit more.
More unweighted.
So although you have early action, but the unweighting is not continuous. That means you're not connecting the upward motion and then dropping of the downward that well here.
Yeah, because I guess, well, one, it comes off the start because I'm whipping it and doing it too much, and then I come.
So when you push the ground good and you start this unweighting motion, then initially upward acceleration, which is coming from this phase, active push here. And then when the force goes below the body weight, then you have upward deceleration. This upward deceleration should be a bit more active. Then you have a better connection. This unweighting here, this unweighting is happening when you go down because you are intentionally dropping the body. You have good unweighting here. But these two actually should be continuous.
Gotcha.
That's
So
the best.
I'm potentially creating the force, but I'm doing too much effort to do it, and too late.
So this is a bit delayed here.
Yeah.
This is good unweighting, but this is a bit delayed.
Yeah.
And then this gives a good push, but it's a bit too much. So now what I want to see is that this continuous unrating here.
Okay.
That means, again, as you build the climax toward the end of the backswing, and push, and then let it drop,
Yeah.
then you will have more continuous unrating here.
Seems like if I just kind of get the first part of the backswing
So
better.
this portion, and then your hesitation in terms of pelvis rotation, these are happening during the same time period
I
here.
got it. Okay.
So this is the only thing that I see. So what happens is, because of hesitation here, the difference between the two forces are decreasing quite a bit here. So during the backswing, now the center of pressure stays almost at the center here, because these two forces are similar. The position of the center of pressure is basically a function of the force difference between the two.
Got it.
If you have more force acting on this side, then this goes this way here. If you have more force on this side, then it moves toward the lead foot here.
They're too similar.
So now they're similar, so the center of pressure stays in the middle here.
Okay.
Then you are increasing this a bit more here.
Okay.
So now it's moving back to the trail foot, but it's because the difference decreased and then increased again.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
Again, I see here
Timing is.
hesitation here.
Yeah.
But if you have a continuous motion, you have good push and they maintain that difference
They won't.
throughout the backswing, then you won't see that.
Got it.
But so this is this decrease in the force difference that basically shows that you have hesitation or slow motion.
Yeah. So if I just fix the initial and get it to peak here, then I can rip it down.
Yeah, have the image of as continuing this motion.
I think I was just
pushing the ground.
whipping, because I've kind of watched some of your stuff. I was whipping it too much with my wrist too early and not using my body and keeping it and
Yeah.
really trying to.
So
work
make
this
an
way.
arc a bit bigger on this side, then this will also change here.
Got it. Okay. Seems easy enough.
And then so because of this good unrating here, the magnitude of unrating is good.
Okay.
Although I see it's a bit delayed here.
Yeah.
But then after that you can push hard here.
So that's good.
This is good amount for it actually exceeds 2 times your body weight. So that's too much.
I have too much force.
If it goes above 2.2 times your body weight, it's too much.
Interesting.
So
Don't they say like you want to have like a lot of it, or I guess it's
that's a misunderstanding here. Generally, when you run correlations,
Okay.
then the peak force and the cleavage speed are correlated, generally.
Okay.
However, when you have too much here, then you will basically have a lot of unrating at the impact here. Your body is almost jumping. Then what happens here is, so this is the so-called moment arm,
Yep.
which is basically separation between this arrow and this red dot here.
Okay.
Red dot is the center of mass of the body.
Yep.
And then this is the combined ground reaction force. This distance here,
Yep.
separation, that's called momentum.
Okay.
And then when you multiply force and momentum, then you get the torque.
Okay.
So that's the torque in the front
So
of
the
plane.
difference between that red dot and that long black line is the
Yeah,
torque.
yeah. No, this is the momentum.
Oh, momentum. Okay.
So when you multiply the momentum and force, then that gives a torque here.
Okay.
So ultimately, we need to generate large torque because golf swing is a good rotational motion, and the torque is the cause of rotational motion.
So it's too much.
But no, this torque is good.
Oh, that's okay.
We need to generate large torque,
I got it. Okay.
but the problem is that toward the end of the downswing here, so about here, now the torque direction changes because the force is passing through the center of mass, so zero momentum and zero torque here. After that, the force goes to the left side of the center of mass here. It's generating torque in the opposite direction. So there's no reason to do this. If it stays close to zero, that's okay. But if you
So
go,
meaning
no, it's because you're jumping.
okay.
So you still, at this stage, you still should have more force acting on the leader side
Got
here.
it. Okay.
So then the force will stay on the right side of the center of mass. Then here, it can be close to zero, but you should not go negative here.
It goes way.
That's in the opposite direction. So
because I'm jumping.
this torque is actually, interfering with the rotation, downward rotation.
It can cause club face and dispersion.
So this can cause trouble here because you have too much push, so that toward the impact you have a lot of unweighting. Because of that, the force goes to the other side, and torque acts in the opposite direction here. But early part of the downswing, you have really good amount of torque here. So this is top of backswing. Okay. And then this is early downswing arm based. So when the lead arm is paired to the ground here. Between these two, if we take average of the torque, it exceeds elite man's average maximum. This is the main source of your speed.
Okay.
Because you're generating large amount of torque in the frontal plane. Then with this, and you can also generate the large amount of pivoting torque about the vertical axis here. So your pivoting torque reaches elite man's average. So you are relying on, because swing plane is a bit steep, you're tall and steep,
Yeah.
so you are more relying on this torque than this torque here. So this torque is, this maximum is similar to elite man's average.
Okay.
That means that this is average, but you have a lot more torque generated in the frontal plane about this axis. So using this.
Gotcha.
But that means it's coming from a bit steeper swing plane here. But however, this is good amount. So although at the top of action you are not quite there yet, but during the early phase of downswing you are generating good amount of torque here. So the average exceeds elite man's average, which is good. This is the main source of your speed. Okay, so you have to maintain this pattern, but you can also, by flattening, you can also enhance the torque about the vertical axis,
So
giving
get
this
farther-
rotation
Get farther away from it.
a bit farther away.
And that will help me, the club, to get more vertical. And
So when you keep the ball a bit farther away from your body, then it will probably discourage this too much push here.
And that's with all clubs, even not with everything, right?
But particularly when you use the shorter irons, then it'll be even more important, because with your height, and then when you have a shorter clubs, then the swing plane will be really steep.
So
So
don't be farther away from it.
generally try to keep the ball a bit more away from your body.
Interesting, okay. And that would help get the club.
Yeah, that way you're flattening the swing plane a little bit, then it will discourage too much action in this direction,
Interesting.
but you are enhancing the rotation about the vertical axis.
Interesting.
So you will have a better balance. Okay, but there's a good amount of torque you're generating, but it's too much. Yeah? And then soon the force goes below the body weight, and you have unweighting. When you have this unweighting toward the impact, then you always have the torque going in the opposite direction.
And my ball doesn't go, it goes all over the place. That would
So
do it.
so there's no reason to generate this much torque, and then after that you generate the torque in the opposite direction to interfere with motion, right? So this slope is really steep. It's decreasing rapidly in the second part of the downswing here.
Okay.
So instead, you don't have to go that much here, still above here, and then gradually decreasing toward the impact here.
And not let it go below.
It is too much here. It's because of jumping action here.
Yeah, got
Yeah.
it.
So particularly when you flatten the swing plane, you will have less jumping.
Makes sense.
So try to keep the ball a bit more away, and then you can lean a bit more forward.
So just more this way.
And bring hands a bit higher.
Okay.
Yep. So that's what I see here. And then with that, again, make a large arc in the backswing so that connect this part to the downswing better here. So you should have a continuous unweighting here. You should not have this decrease in the force difference this much here and increasing it again.
Got it.
Yeah. So you almost have a two-stage motion here. Initially pushed here, but then try to increase the push again here. Instead, when you have a good initial use of the lead foot here, during the backswing, you just push the ground to go with the trail foot, and then downswing push with this. So you're pretty much using the stepping action here.
Yeah. So my timing, I'm doing it, but the timing is just a little,
But you have a little bit of push again here, so almost like another hop here, and
standing on my
then
back
go
foot,
this way
yeah.
here. Yeah.
Got
So, but if you build the climax more toward the end of backswing, these will improve here. This will go away. So you'll be able to maintain that force difference longer, and then switch
I got it.
you will have switching here. Okay. So, but you're generating really good amount of torque here in the early phase of downswing. But because of this here, this unrating peak is happening a bit later here relative to the top of backswing. And you have a relatively long early downswing phase time from here to 7 here. So this time period.
It's too much.
But when you have good connection, then this time period will shorten.
Yeah, I got it.
So this is what I see in your swing pattern. But in general, you have a good speed. But again, the swing motion should be a bit easier, so that instead of using your muscles like crazy, then use it more effectively and efficiently. That means utilize the stretch shortening cycle.
Yeah.
So build the climax toward the end of the backswing and then continuous transition to the downswing. That way you can use the muscles a bit better.
Got it.
And then you will eliminate this hesitation here,
Yeah.
better connection. And if this occurs a bit earlier, then you'd have to push the ground hard this much here.
Too much. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it.
If this is a bit too much, then it's hard to control the direction.
Yeah.
You're putting too much effort. So, but it'll give you good satisfaction because in terms of speed, you have a good speed here.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks.
Sometimes speed is the source of pride,
Yeah.
right?
But it'll give me more efficient speed. It'll keep the speed the same, but be more efficient. That's.
Yep. So, and then what I'll do is I'll show you another golfer here, so which will give you some, contrast here. So time-wise, he's spending a bit more time than you, but still under 1,000 millisecond here. And his speed is about 115, okay, still above the average. In his case, 3 and 4 are separated. And about here, he reaches the peak club speed in the backswing.
Mine's too.
Too early here. So it's okay to spend a bit more time from 1 to 2 to this position,
Yeah.
but speed up here. And then 7 here and 8 here. So these are better separated.
And mine are too close.
And top view, in his case, both are slightly inward, but still they are paired to each other,
Yeah.
which is good. Then when you align it along the swing plane here, his club head goes above the swing plane quite a bit, and then gradually dropping toward the swing plane here.
Mine, I'm too close to it. Yeah.
So from the top of backswing to here, you see the club head is quickly moving toward the swing plane
Got it.
in a nice planar motion here. And then center of mass here, it shows a more away motion that go up here, the high point here, low point at ED, early downswing here. So the timing is better here. When the low point occurs at the ED, that means he's not jumping. So he's just slowing down the downward motion. With that, generate the maximum force. And then still, the center of mass moves above the initial position here at impact. And then the pelvis motion is turning to the left a bit more here. Okay, so that's why his swing plane and hand motion plane is slightly inward.
Yeah, I saw that.
He also has a good lateral tilt. This line is not crossing the axis. This is forward and backward motion of the pelvis and the forward, so it's not crossing this line here.
Yep.
So his pelvis is not moving backward too much. Again, gradual downward motion and then going up, this is good. Shift away in the recentering and then moving continuously toward the target, this is good. And then X factor, it's pretty much increasing continuously all the way to a top of backswing.
Okay.
Kinetic sequence. Look at this
So perfect. They're all separated.
and then sequential here.
Mine were way too close.
Yeah, so these are close. You have clustered transition.
Okay.
So because he's building the climax toward the end of the backswing here, and then from there he's transitioning to the downswing. That's why he has a longer transition phase, and then good separation among these. And if you look at his peak pelvis angular velocity, it's happening about here. Okay,
Mine was too much.
too early.
Yeah.
Pelvis, thorax, and shoulders pretty much happening at the same time, but it's in the middle of the backswing here.
Right.
So the arms reach peak later. The club reaches peak later here. So I want to see the peak pelvis angular velocity near the middle of the backswing.
Versus early.
And then In the downswing, the timing is okay. 7 and 8 are separated a bit more. So in his case, so this is 7. When the arm is paired to the ground, still the club is staying a bit closer. So because of that, it takes more time for the club to reach this
Yeah,
vertical alignment.
Mine already shot over to the other side.
Yeah. So, and then he has a cocking here. Cocking angular velocity actually increases here.
So he's having more wrist cock and then ripping.
And then here the uncocking starts. This is severely delayed here. So with that, wrist angular velocity goes above, and then the club angular velocity goes above. So he's generating the peak angular velocity using the wrist really well in the downswing.
It's easier on the body and not as.
One thing, and then let me finish, and then I'll go back to your pattern here.
Yeah.
So in his case, at the beginning, you see more difference between the two. Okay, more force on the lead side here. And then good push from the trail side here. And this is pretty much, the difference is maintained better, right?
Yeah, look at that. That's great.
So in your case, these two were quite close to each other.
Yep.
But so he's still maintaining the center pressure close to the trail side here. And then the unrating is more continuous.
Yeah, mine was straight. Right, my red line was just straight, I think.
And then he's generating good amount of force here. This is about 1.85
Mine was like 2.
times the body weight, but yours goes about 2.0. And then, so he maintains good momentum here, longer than elite man's average maximum. And then he is generating good amount of torque at the beginning of the downswing here. Already this is close to the elite man's average, and then goes above here. And then, so from top of backswing to lead arm parallel position here, he's maintaining good amount of torque. And then this time period is short here. He's not wasting any time at the beginning of the downswing. So when you feel your body is not ready, then what happens at the early phase of downswing, you are turning the pelvis early, more actively, then start the body rotation. Then you have this, and then a bit more increase in the X factor. But in his case, he doesn't have to do that because building the climax here toward the end of backswing, this is enough. So in the downswing, early downswing, he's not wasting time here, just focusing on the acceleration of the body. It's good push here, but still at impact,
Oh, it doesn't go behind.
his force is above the swing plane here because he maintains good amount of force on the lead side here. So
This is with driver, I assume.
it does not go way below here, so it stays about 0 here. Now let me go back to what you were saying. One thing I forgot to mention is if you look at the shoulder angular velocity pattern here, it does not reach peak and then going down, but it keeps accelerating through the impact here. Your shoulders here. So this pattern is called the late shoulder acceleration pattern. So you intentionally try to put a lot of effort near the impact. So with that, you have exaggerated the shoulder turn. When you have that, what happens is this. Shoulder turns quite a bit here. Your hands are high. So you have exaggerated turn motion in the follow-through.
It's just too much. It's just not necessary.
So because you're putting a lot of effort here, and then your shoulders are pretty much accelerating through the impact, and then if this keeps for a while here, then you have exaggerated shoulder turn here.
I'm trying to just do too much versus just kind of letting it.
So let it go, swing through, and then if the impact occurs here, after that you just nicely slow down the body motion instead of keep pushing all the way and then have exaggerated turn here.
Okay.
So you're putting a lot of effort in the follow-through. This is a bit too much. So jumping and then too much effort in the follow-through, that's something you have to avoid. So we can save a lot of energy from this thing here.
And make the ball go straighter.
You are hitting the ball using the speed you generated here. Yeah. Using that, let it go, let the head go, and then hit the ball. And then just after that, you just It's a slow down and then
It just
nicely
happens that the
finish.
ball's gone. It doesn't matter what happens, right?
So what happens is that when you put a lot of effort through the impact, then it can affect the impact.
Yeah, I have no club face control.
You can affect the club motion, club head motion. So that's detrimental. So all you do is just generate enough speed and then let the club head go and then hit the ball.
That's it. Versus trying to do too
Yeah.
much. Potentially with my irons, I might not be doing that as much, but
So this is what I noticed, but I forgot to mention.
okay.
Yeah. So this is what I see in your swing pattern. But I would maintain the speed. But for you, even if you lose the speed a little bit, that's okay. It's still high enough. But your goal should be more direction control and a more consistent shot.
That's good.
Yeah. But this speed will give you way, above 300 yards. So you can hit the ball far, but then that should be predictable, right?
I want it to go straight.
So, and then also how's your ball flight generally?
I think I can hit it pretty low and high. Like I've always been able to flight it pretty well.
So here, judging from your alignment here, although the club head is aligned toward the target, but when you tend to hit up, then do you have like a draw spin?
Yeah, it overdraws way too much.
So sometimes when the timing is not right, what can happen is if you have outward swing plane here, when you have square impact, then the ball will be a block shot.
Yeah, I get two-way miss left and right. Yeah.
So you have to control the time well, but if you put a lot of effort through the impact, then that condition changes. So you have the good acceleration and then let it go and hit the ball.
I'm like letting it go and then doing something else.
So you're putting too much effort in the follow through. So
Potentially, I guess with irons, if I'm hitting the ground though, that might kind of help a little bit. But with the driver off the tee, it can cause all sorts of things.
yeah, so that's
Got it.
the last
sense.
thing I want to mention.